What's up guys, it's Itzel, welcome to my channel. Today we are picking out my September TBR. This is my first time ever filming a monthly TBR video for YouTube, and actually my first time picking out a TBR, or a monthly TBR at least, in general. I'm really excited to actually do this because usually I will finish a book and then just kind of pick out whatever book I'm feeling next, but sometimes it's honestly really overwhelming just because there's so many books to pick from. So I figured if we have an actual monthly TBR, then it will be a lot easier to pick my next read. This month we are going to be picking out my monthly TBR using a TBR jar, which not an original idea. So many people use this method, but it's new to me, so I'm still really excited about it. I put in 50 prompts into this cute little, it was a vase. There's like a floral arrangement in here, but now it is a jar and it's my TBR jar. Maybe at some point I'll decorate it a little more, like put a little ribbon on it or something, but for now I think she's still cute and red. There are 50 prompts in this jar and we'll give them a good little shake once we're ready to start. But yes, I made this in my most recent reading vlog that went up, so if you want to see a little bit of the behind the scenes, then you can go ahead and watch that reading vlog. I'm planning on picking out 6 to 8 prompts. I'm not really sure yet. I think I'm going to decide as I'm actually picking the books. The amount of books I read per month truly varies, but I'm trying to start reading more, and I feel like if I have a TBR set and it's like a challenge, then I will be a little bit more motivated and inclined to finish the TBR and read more books. So let's go ahead and get started. This is kind of exciting. I hope you guys can see my little TBR bookshelf. Do not have a cart, and I don't really need one because I have this handy dandy bookshelf. Quick shout out to my little plants, my little plant friends on here. But okay, we got the first one. A book with a landscape on the cover. Not the most exciting start, to be honest. Okay. A book with a, okay, so we have Wild Love with this kind of like mountainscape right there. Oh, okay. We also have, oh, that was by Elsie Silver. We also have A Mercy by Toni Morrison. It looks like this is kind of like some sort of river, and then you see the trees, so we're gonna count that one as well. I guess I honestly didn't think that I would have any, but I guess I have at least a few. This is, I guess I would count this as a landscape. Maybe not, but it looks like there's like a sidewalk and then just some grass, and then obviously the like clouds up there. The cloudscape. I think those are my 3 choices. I'm definitely leaning one of these two. I do want to read both of these, obviously. That's why I have them. But I think I'm going to go with A Mercy by Toni Morrison. This is set in the late 17th century. I'm going to read you like the last paragraph in the little like summary thing on the inside flap. A Mercy reveals what lies beneath the surface of slavery, but at its heart it is the ambivalent, disturbing story of a mother who casts off her daughter in order to save her, and of a daughter who may never exercise that abandonment. Acts of mercy may have unforeseen consequences. Does that not sound like the most intriguing thing ever? Plus, I've been meaning to read this for the past few months and I haven't picked it up, so it's finally time. Okay, let's see. Read a book where the character is a writer. I put main in question, like a little parentheses in case the main character wasn't a writer. I don't think my camera is going to focus on these. So you may just have to believe me. But okay, I actually don't know. I'm gonna have to read through these and see if any of these actually have a character who is a writer. Okay, so I could ultimately be wrong, but I believe that none of these stories have a character, particularly the main character, who is a writer, with one kind of exception, and that's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, but that's like an autobiography, so she is the writer. But when I wrote this prompt, it was definitely so that way I could read a story about someone writing to get a little bit inspired from it. So we're gonna go ahead and skip this prompt for today. That's okay. Let's pick out another one. Read a book with multiple POVs. Okay, so after doing some research, I found one. This is kind of funny. I didn't expect to have to do so much research for these prompts, but we have We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker, and the story is told from the point of view of Walk, who is the police chief of their town, and a 13-year-old girl. So there's that. I don't really know a whole bunch about this book. I picked it up quite a while ago. The top like main blurb just says there are two kinds of families, the ones we were born into and the ones we create. So it looks like both the 13-year-old girl and the police chief are going through their own kind of problems, and at some point their lives intersect. I think that they kind of develop some sort of relationship, not that kind of relationship, just like a relationship, like some sort of friendship, or maybe he becomes somewhat of a fatherly figure. I'm not entirely sure. The story is both devastating and full of hope. And it looks like there's some humor as well. It is ultimately an inspiring tale of how the human spirit prevails and how, in the end, love in all its different guises wins. Okay, so this is the book. So this is the book that we are gonna go with. Second book down. So for our third book, which one should I pick? Let's go with this one. We have a book that's been adapted into a movie or TV show. So we definitely have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which I actually haven't seen a single adaptation of, but I know that they exist. So this is an option. Okay, I thought that Six of Crows might have been on Netflix, but no, it's just the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which comes before this. So I'll put this one back. And I think that leaves us with Pride and Prejudice. It looks like this is the only one on my shelves that has been adapted into a movie or TV show. I don't think I've read it in its entirety. I know for a fact I had to read this in high school. However, I'm fairly certain that at that point in time I just kind of skimmed through it. So I'm excited to actually read it. I'm sure that I'm actually going to really enjoy it. I was just not much of a reader at that point in time. But I did buy this kind of cute edition a few months ago, and I really want to kind of dive into classics. It's basically about a girl named Elizabeth and another character named Mr. Darcy, and it's kind of like the way that their relationship starts and then develops, but it's like very rocky. They both have like negative feelings towards each other, and they let their pride and their prejudices get in the way of falling in love, essentially. And honestly, like I said, I never really read through this, so I'm really excited. This is definitely set in a time when like a woman like has to marry a man in order to really live past being a young girl. So I'm really interested to see if they actually end up, well, one, marrying, but two, marrying for love instead of necessity. So I'm excited to add this one to the list. Next prompt, I kind of want something fun, something a little lighter perhaps. Okay, we have read a book set in a different time period. That's pretty fun. I probably have quite a few choices, but I think my top three are going to be The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by B.E. Schwab, and I believe this is set in France, 1714. Okay, so 18th century. And then we have, oh gosh, What We Leave Behind by Christine Gallagher Kearney, and this is set in 1947. So we've got that one. I have a few more, but I'm gonna pick between these two. I think I'm just gonna have to go with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This is a pretty popular book. I just obviously haven't read it yet, but I've been meaning to. So it looks like the main character is a young woman named Adeline, and she makes some sort of bargain. It looks like part of this deal was that no one was ever going to remember her again. So if she meets someone and they have an interaction, if they run into each other again, they won't remember ever meeting her. So that's kind of her life, and it looks like says she's not quite alone, but it looks like she's lonely. But then she meets someone who can remember her name, and suddenly everything changes again. So I'm excited to read this one. I had gotten it from Book of the Month when it was super popular, like a year ago-ish, and so I'm really excited to finally get into it. All right, now we're going for our 5th prompt. Okay, got a lot to choose from. A book with red or pink on the cover. I had written that one just because the pens that I was using to write all the prompts were red and pink, so fitting. Okay, well, we've got these two for pink. We've got these 3 for red. We've got a lot more red choices over here. Wow, I can basically pick any book. I think I'm leaning these 3 choices. We have Wild Love by Elsie Silver, once again, and this would be a romance book. Then we have One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake with the red, and this is a fantasy book. And then we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, which is kind of red, and this would be another fantasy. Let's see what we currently have. I'm kind of leaning one of these two the most. I know that this one is partially like a romance book. Okay, I think that there's romance in it between rival witch families, I believe. So, and it's like a Romeo and Juliet like reimagining. So that is so funny. A witchy mob-inspired adventure that will excite fans of V.E. Schwab and Leigh Bardugo. So we do have a V.E. Schwab book. I feel like that's a sign to get this one. One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I just finished reading Alone with You in the Ether by her, and I really liked her writing and different like writing styles and elements that she chose. So I am really excited to get into this one. I'm also not a big fantasy reader. I want to get into the genre, and since it's September, fall is officially starting in a few weeks, so I think this would be a good like transition book, and there is a little bit of romance in it, so we're gonna add this one to the list. Up next, a book under 300 pages. Okay, that one's kind of cool. I'm gonna go count some of these up and then I'll be right back. Okay, so we have 5 choices here. First we have Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is a poetry book. I want to say it was really popular like a couple years ago, and like everyone was reading it. Clearly I did not read it. There's a page folded. Well, someone might have doggy-eared that page for me. Anywho, we have another poetry book, and this is For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. I don't know why I said it like that. Jason Reynolds. This is for the courageous and everyone who wants to be. Again, another short poetry book. Next we have Poverty by America, and this is by Matthew Desmond. This book talks about the United States being the richest country on earth, but having more poverty than any other advanced democracy, and it just talks about how Americans knowingly and unknowingly keep poor people poor. Oh, that's an interesting line. Some lives are made small so that others may grow. Pretty interesting contender there. Next we have The Book Eaters by Suni Dean. Now this one's about a group of people who eat books and then they retain all of the book's content after eating it. So it looks like Devin is the main character, And she is part of a family who's raised very traditionally, where the women eat a carefully curated diet of fairy tales and cautionary stories. But it looks like the main character is not satisfied with that. They want more to life than just that. It's a really interesting concept, honestly, so another pretty good contender. And finally, my book sleeve is weird. We have The Yellow Birds by Kevin Powers. The Yellow Birds is the unforgettable story of two soldiers trying to stay alive. So, probably very compelling stuff in here. Also, I really hate this mark right here. I don't know if you can see it, but there was like definitely a sticker there and someone peeled it off, which is fine. I hate stickers on books, but this is a secondhand book, so that's why it's a little bit beat up. But yeah, it has like random marks everywhere. Anywho, I really don't know what to pick. I don't really want to pick one of the poetry books. So we're kind of left with these three. I'm like looking at my stack of books that I already have picked out, and I don't know. We have like fantasy, a little bit of literary fiction. I'm kind of leaning with going with one of these two, which seems like it may be a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but this seems really interesting. But I already have some like fun like stories on here, so I feel like I need something a little bit heavier, which is so weird to say. Nothing like a good sad book, you know? Ooh, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna read the first line of each book, and whichever one is more interesting is the one that I'm gonna pick. So first with The Yellow Birds. The war tried to kill us in the spring. Well, why is there so much poverty in America? That was really not helpful, because it's literally just like a hook to the topic that the books are about, which is what an intro line is supposed to do, but I don't know. Neither of those was very fun or very interesting, so I think I'm gonna add Poverty by America just to feel perhaps a little bit more intellectual. Elizabeth, or Plant-Based Bride on YouTube, recently read this book, or I don't know how recent, but sometime within the last few months read this book and had incredible things to say about it, and she annotated the heck out of it, so I probably expect to do the same. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. We have 6 books picked out, so I think I'm gonna pick one more book. 2 more? I don't know. Maybe just one more. We'll see. I hope it's a good one. Not that these prompts haven't been good, but I want something like cute and fun. A book written by an author with a nationality different than your own. Okay. I'm gonna decide between these two. There are probably more books here that would fall under that category, but these are the two that I'm gonna decide between, which are My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Beckman and The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brommer. So he, I believe, is Swedish, and she, I believe, is Australian. So maybe I should do that like first line thing with these. So I feel like these would have a more intriguing first line. Every 7-year-old deserves a superhero. Okay. I can get behind that. The first time I watched someone die, I was 5. This is a really hard choice, but I think I'm gonna go with The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brommer. I very recently picked this book up from my local independent bookstore, and prior to that I have actually been looking for it, so I feel like this should definitely be the one that I read, just because I've been waiting to read it for quite a while now. I'm not sure exactly what like the plot line is. I just know that it explores themes of like grief and death. Maybe it's someone who is like surrounded by death who's trying to navigate life. I'm wondering if The Collected Regrets of Clover really means that she's collecting other people's regrets, because it says that she is a death doula, so she helps people peacefully through their end-of-life process. And so I'm wondering if these collected regrets are regrets that she's collected from other people, and she doesn't want to end up feeling the same thing once it's her time, and so she's going to do something about that. I really don't know. Maybe that's not exactly it, but I am I don't want to say excited because I've said excited so many times, and excited sounds like a happy emotion, but I do really want to get into this book, and I've heard good praise. Once again, actually, Elizabeth over on Plant-Based Bride really recommended this book. I don't remember when or why she recommended it exactly, but she did speak of this very highly, and I'd been on the look for it ever since. Like I said, I'd been looking for it for a few months, and so finally came across it, and it's time to read it. So I ended up picking 7 books for this monthly TBR. Now that's quite a lot since I only read in like spare free time, since I work a full-time job and then have other adult responsibilities. So it really is going to be a challenge to read all of these, but I am going to challenge myself to actually read all of them. I'm pretty excited to put some of these in some reading vlogs since I've recently started doing those, and they are so much fun. I did really quickly want to mention that there is another book that is technically going to be a part of my September TBR, and that's Circe by Madeline Miller. Now, I started this book a few days ago within the month of September, so I'm gonna go ahead and add this to the list so that we're gonna have a total of 8 books, and this one my partner helped me pick out, so I guess you can add that as an imaginary prompt that I picked out. But this is a Greek mythology book where the main character Circe is a witch, and so far I don't really want to read the back since I kind of went into it somewhat blind, but she is living a kind of like sad life. She's not really respected or valued, but now that she has this newly found gift and power of being a witch, which is usually like frowned upon by the gods. They kind of fear it. It looks like she is gonna grow her power, and I'm not exactly sure where the book is gonna go because well, I was about to talk a little bit about it, but you can find it in my reading vlog that's coming out after this. So that's Circe. These are quite a lot of books to read. I mean, it's hard to even hold up, but let's see if I can do it. Let me scoot back a little. Oh, wrong way. That was actually an accident. Oh my goodness. Can you tell I'm new to this? Okay, here we go. We have the final lineup here. Let's see if I can do this without dropping them. We have Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, The Collected Regrets of Clover by Nikki Brommer, Circe by Madeline Miller, One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake, A Mercy by Toni Morrison, We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So there you have it, my September TBR. I am really excited to get into this, and like I said earlier, to actually challenge myself to read all these books, because believe me, this is quite a challenge for me. So I am really excited to get into this, and like I said, put some of these books in some reading vlogs and just chat about books and get more excited about reading. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I picked my September TBR. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. That way I can actually go and get to reading. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.